interviewing top talent in movies, television, sports, and music, leaders, entrepreneurs, and experts. Broadcast in over 30 countries out of New York, Manchester, Los Angeles. As a mentor, life and career coach, I help others, athletes, actors, and people of all walks of life solve the problems they face by introducing balance and routines that would otherwise leave them stuck and overthinking, paralyzed, unable to reach their goals. They look for engaging, rewarding lives, and I think they deserve that. Today, I invite you to join me on my radio show to learn from my guests and I how you can be more resilient and strong. I empower people who struggle with confusion or feel stuck in soulless, non-fulfilling situations. I help them find calm and claim their authentic self in their career path or personal life so they can live to their fullest potential. As a motivational speaker for businesses, schools, resorts, and communities, I speak on topics of achieving success and living a mentally healthy lifestyle, featuring topics from my Power My Life program within my revolutionary Impact, Influence, and Income Academy. I inspire the world as a radio journalist, author, life coach, career coach, resilience expert, mental health advocate, and most recently as a society writer for Transatlantic Today magazine. So happy that you joined me. Let's get rolling. You don't just have to go through it, you can grow through it. Good morning and welcome to Resilient You with Alicia Pozsony. On our show each week, we have guests that talk about topics of resilience. And I'm excited today for many reasons. Today, we have a guest, and I'll introduce her in a moment. We're going to talk about peace in menopause and mental health during menopause. It's something that is weighing on a lot of our guest minds, or many of my guests talk about it. Many of the listeners and people in my circles talk about it. We even had Oprah Winfrey talking about it as a big thing a few years ago. And so when we have something like this that bubbles over, it's so important to continue the discussion. And today, Emily and I are going to talk about all the topics that you want to hear. Emily Cambria. Emily, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you. I am just really excited to be talking about this subject because there's so many things that people don't understand about it. And I'm really excited that you've brought me on to be able to help share this information.
Yes. Well, I know you're a thought leader in your area of expertise. You have a great big presence online. You constantly give back in many ways. And so why don't you tell our audience what it is that you are all about?
Well, thank you very much. Well, I am all about supporting women because I believe wholeheartedly that women are the backbones of our communities and our families. I focus a lot on the lifelong aging process. As a wellness occupational therapist, we are trained in the lifespan of living. And so women, of course, we have our own lives to take care of, but because we're bringing other people into the world and we're providing caring services to our families, to our communities, it all is sort of involved into one thing for me. So my goal is to help people live their life to be the happiest and the healthiest that they can be so that they end their days when they rest their head on their pillow, feeling accomplished and joyful and not stressed out. And it is possible to achieve that, even though we have this crazy world we live in. It is really possible.
It's so true. The women are the first person that the child loves. So, in my life as a mother, I never dreamed I would be a mother. I was blessed, and it changed me in many ways. I was kind of clueless when I stepped into that role, because before that I was just a person, and I had maybe 2 or 3 roles in my life. But I noticed that the more roles we take on without even realizing it sometimes, the more pressures that we take, the more it affects us mentally and physically. And so, we often hear that, oh, I just have a headache, or oh, I just have a back pain, or I just have neck pain, or uh, inflammation, which wreaks havoc on our systems. And, there's so many things that happen to us, and we just brush it aside, right? We just pop a Tylenol or something and brush it aside and wait for tomorrow. And we maybe do what we can. Maybe we try and exercise. But again, I notice that the more roles we take on, the more, and by the time we hit midlife, of course, we're into something much different. So, Emily, you support women. You are a supporter and an advocate for lifelong wellness. I know that you were clinically trained, and thank you for what you give back to the world. So, the third thing you touched on is something that's especially interesting to me, that we can be happy and have a way to manage all of this. Now, my story is very complex, but in this stage of my life, I went into perimenopause early, and it wasn't long after I had my second child. And so, just when I thought I had all the energy I needed, it wasn't happening. Just when I thought that I was healthy and I would live a vibrant life, I was impacted by physical challenges, and it was out of my control. There was no cause and effect that I could see. It was just, I woke up one day and I had all of this rampant inflammation. Now, what funny story, when I turned 40, I went to the doctor and I said, "Hey, what's going on with my gut? Like, I have all this gas, I have all these problems. What's going on?" He says, "Wait, how old are you? You're going into the four F's. The four F's, when you turn 40, you get flatulence, fatigue, and whatever, those two were enough. You know, but it was true. This was like a wake up for me that I never even knew existed. So, Emily, I just said a whole lot right there. Um, let's talk a minute. So the title of this episode is Peace in Perimenopause. So when the year or so before women go into menopause, and menopause is defined the year after your period stops for a full year, as I understand it. So
Mhm.
perimenopause could be quite a few years. And in my case, it was. And so, what do you think are some of the things that we need to know in order to have peace in menopause and good mental health during menopause?
Well,
Do you
that's an
just
excellent question. So there's first three things that come to mind right away. First is the things that we're going to talk about today don't necessarily pertain if you're a mom or not. So there's a lot of women out there who don't have children but have a lot of hats that they wear and a lot of roles that they have to fulfill. And all the things we're talking about pertain to them as well as moms. Also, what we're going to talk about pertains to a lot of the things that we'll talk about pertain to the majority of the other people, well, all the other people, a lot of people can apply, men and women can apply what we're going to talk about today. And the reason it affects women that are perimenopause or menopause so greatly is because they are having the greatest fluctuations happen, which we'll come back to that. The other thing I want to point out is what you're doing in your 20s, in your teens, and your 30s all can compound and create your problems in your 40s, 50s, and 60s. So if people have been having really bad habits in their younger ages, because we're all young and feel invincible and can make some bad choices, that will affect you on your older years. However, the body is resilient and has an amazing capacity to heal and rebalance. So if you're a young person and you're listening to this call right now because you're concerned about perimenopause, know that, don't worry if you had some really bad habits. There's things that you can do to rebalance yourself and catch up. Okay. So if you're in your 60s like me and you had bad habits in your 20s, and you change those, again, I think I'm a perfect example of how getting balanced can help you age backwards. It's really possible. Okay, so what happens when you reach, first of all, I have to tell you a little bit about me. I worked on Wall Street for 15 years, had a very successful career back in the day when if you went for a job interview, they'd say, why should I hire you? You're going to have babies and leave. So I had worked in a very male-dominated industry, and then I ended up changing careers due to a move to Minnesota, and I fell in love with occupational therapy. Went back to school. Back then, I got another bachelor's degree, and during my training, because when you're in a healthcare profession like occupational therapy, you go and do what's called field work. So you get work experience it's part of your college training, but you're working for free. And I got exposed to tuberculosis on my training, and nobody caught it. Yes, I was very sick, but when they caught it, they put me on antibiotics for a year. So I was in my 30s, got put on antibiotics for a year, which propelled me into menopause. So I have a lot of personal experience with all the things menopause and perimenopause. Infertility. I adopted 2 children. I solved that problem by adopting 2 kids, but there was a long road to that. That's a whole nother episode going through infertility and all that. Arthritis, osteoporosis, osteoarthritis. I said that one already. Brain fog, hot flashes, fatigue, poor sleeping, mood swings, anxiety, all of that all compounds into what menopause and perimenopause is, okay? So I struggled for years and years and years. And then the solution I found, which we're going to be talking about, and I'll explain why nobody talked about it. Nobody trained us on this in occupational therapy school. It was never mentioned, but your gut, like you spoke of earlier in your story, our gut microbiome, which is a little ecosystem that exists inside of our digestive tract, that actually helps regulate a lot of things going on in our bodies, okay? So I'm jumping right into perimenopause and menopause to explain this. And this is why what happens affects women more than it affects men. Men still have that happening because they do go through their own menopause. It's a little different, not as dramatic as women, okay? So when our estrogen levels start to fluctuate, that changes the composition of our gut microbiome in our ecosystem, okay? Prior to that happening, prior to your estrogen dropping, your gut health, think of it as a garden of life, is affected by so many different things. So how you're born gives you your gut microbiome. Everybody has a gut microbiome just like on your fingerprint. It's all different. Even though there are similarities, it's different. And depending on how you're born affects your gut microbiome. So if you're born vaginally, you actually get a higher percentage of a good gut bacteria compound from your mom, if hers is in a good situation. If C-sections, there's a totally different composition because for some reason, they don't know why, when the child passes through the vaginal tract, it gets some of that special gut microbiome. Toxins that leach into our bodies from our environment, from our air, from our cosmetics, from our soaps, from our upholstery, from our carpeting, from the packaging on our foods that leach into our bodies that way. That changes our gut microbiome. What else? Stress, alcohol consumption, artificial sugars, medications. These are just some of the things before you go into perimenopause. So you have all that working against your garden of life. And the reason I call it your garden of life is because your gut microbiome is responsible for regulating all the different things that are happening in your body. It's a communication pathway from your autonomic nervous system. So when I say automatic, I guess is a better word. I think they should call it, because it's what's happened automatically. So your heart beats automatically, your blood flows through your body automatically, your lungs, you breathe in and out automatically, you think, you blink automatically, and all that gets communicated through this longest nerve in your body called the vagus nerve. And they also call it the gut-brain axis, and it's also called your second brain. We really do have two brains. There's the one that our conscious mind and our unconscious mind, the one in our skull. But then there's that pathway that's telling the brain what's happening in all the systems of your body, what's happening with your breathing, what's happening with your blood levels, what's happening with your pain, what's happening with your muscle, how do you know to move your arm when you want to think about reaching for your coffee in the morning? All that happens automatically. So when your microbiome is off, it's called a dysbiosis, when it's imbalanced due to all the things that can affect it and all the things, and you add on perimenopause and the drop in estrogen, that dramatically is closely linked to changing your ecosystem and your balance of your gut. The reason your hormones, there's a lot of hormones that are actually produced in your gut. Melatonin, which one helps us sleep, which is why women struggle with a lot of sleep issues when they hit perimenopause and menopause. Your serotonin, which is our happy hormone. 90% of your happy hormone is produced in your gut, believe it or not. And if you have a dysbiosis and you're not producing a lot of the right percentage of that hormone, you chemically aren't going to feel happy. And it's hard enough to think happy thoughts or be happy with things that are going on around you, because happiness kind of is a choice. It doesn't just happen, but it can really help you when you've got the right amount of serotonin. And I know from my personal experience, I probably wasn't producing any serotonin as I was clinically diagnosed as depressed. I didn't go on a medication, but I suffered for 10 years in that mindset of just going, why don't I feel happy? Here I am in a beautiful place and I'm still sad. And it wasn't until I got my gut bacteria balanced, especially after antibiotic use, which I'll have to come back to that. But when I finally got balanced, it's like a light, like, the sun comes up and you go, oh, and you just feel that way 100% of the time, no matter what happens. You can overcome things easier. When you go on antibiotics, which we've all know that there's that whole history of that they've overprescribed antibiotics over the years, it kills the good gut bacteria as well as the bad in your body. Unless you replace it and nurture it, you won't get rebalanced. You can't eat enough yogurt. There's a lot of things that you can do, and we'll come back to that and how to get that balance. The one thing I want to explain is, why does it, what's happening? I'm saying, oh yeah, when your estrogen goes down, it affects your gut bacteria. When your gut bacteria is off, that affects your estrogen levels and your serotonin levels and all your hormone levels. What's happening is, when you have a poor gut health, it's actually disrupting the organs in your body, the glands in your body, and you're getting the wrong messages sent to your brain to make the adjustments, but it's making the adjustments incorrectly. And therefore you end up in that neural loop of inflammation, a neural loop of perhaps a cough all the time, a neural loop of anxiety, because our central nervous system has a memory to it. And this is all new cutting edge science. I didn't think it has a memory. It does. We'll have to have another podcast about memory and trauma. If you've experienced trauma, there's generational trauma because it's imprinted on your nervous system that gets passed down in your DNA, but that's a whole nother thing. So our hormonal imbalances with perimenopause and menopause are caused just naturally because your estrogen drops as you get older. It's compounded by whatever you did as you were younger. But the good news is there's a lot of things that we can do to create a balance within our gut microbiome. So that was a very long answer to your question.
Wow, Emily, this is just amazing. And as you're talking, I'm hitting all of those check boxes. Like, yes, I made poor choices in my youth. I know a million people who did, right? That was what we were free from our parents, and we decided to just live life the best we knew how. And now I have a teenager who's ready to do that same thing.
Right.
But it's so interesting to think that we can actually take control back, that we can make the changes. And I follow you for a long time. We met 2 years ago.
Yep.
Women Rocking Business. We were coaching on different things as we went through, and I was fortunate enough to meet you, and here we are today. And Emily, you are clearly a wealth of knowledge. And so if you're just tuning in or you haven't got the points, Emily Cambria has talked about supporting women as a lifelong or a wellness occupational therapist. She's advocate of lifelong health and wellness, and she wants you to know that you can accomplish happiness, and that's despite being in a state of dysbiosis, which is where you have disrupted messages happening in your body, causing many of the different things like unhappiness, uh, arthritis, arthritis, and uh, I mean, all the things that you mentioned, Emily, are the things that seem like what I need to know. And I think if I know it, then there's a million other people who need to know it as well. So our hormones are affected. We get in these neural loops, we're causing physical things like maybe a cough, anxiety, inflammation. We want to know how to get the balance. So I'll ask you first, is there a shortcut?
Well, that's a great way to word the question. Anything that is a shortcut cannot be long lasting. This is why things of like if you have inflammation or a cough, or you have poor sleep, you can't sleep at night because you have hot flashes, things like that. Yes, you can take a quick medication, a chemical that will put a Band-Aid on the symptom that you're struggling with, but it's only a Band-Aid. It's not getting to the root of the issue and to root healing. Okay. I love Advil, ibuprofen. That was my friend when I was struggling with my TB recovery, and after being a year on antibiotics, my osteoarthritis, my hot flashes, my pain, all of that, I would take up to 600 milligrams of Advil a day. Yes, it helped the pain. Yes, I got through. Yes, I could fall asleep because I wasn't in pain. I still had my hot flashes. But my point is that I learned later that Advil causes cancer. And now the Food and Drug Administration recommends do not use Advil, right? This came out about 5-6 years ago. Now, do I still use Advil? Yes, very sparingly. However, I have really, really turned to natural remedies, and natural remedies aren't as quick as these chemicals that they prescribe. As you know, the rage for balancing your blood sugar right now is all these new drugs that help people balance their A1C and lose weight fast. However, there's so many negative side effects to this. It's sad that people are reaching for it. You're right, people want a quick fix. Quick fixes will not last. What can you do? Well, everybody knows exercise is one of the best things you can do. And it's amazing on how only 30 minutes a day of walking is the cheapest and the most beneficial and the less time-consuming exercise people should do. They should have a break in everybody's day and everybody's work day where everybody gets to go for a walk for 30 minutes. Wouldn't that be stinking fun? Just have everybody leave their desk or leave wherever they're going. Okay, everybody, it's walking half hour, and everybody goes out, walks, has a conversation, gets out in fresh air. Maybe they're walking on a treadmill in their house, watching a video, maybe watching this podcast. Walking is fabulous. You also need to add a little bit of strength training when you get older, because you lose between 3 to 7% of your body mass starting at the age of 30. So if you're not doing any kind of strength training, and what I mean is just body weight, you don't really even have to have 5-pound weights if you don't want, but body weight, push-ups, squats, just simple things that create stress onto your muscles. Otherwise, if you don't do anything, by the time you reach age 60, you're going to lose what, 5, 10, 15, 20, almost 20, 35% of your muscle mass.
Mm.
And it only takes 10 minutes a day, really. 10 minutes, 3 days a week. Very, very simple. So those are two things you can do. Walk, do some exercise. You don't have to drive to the gym. I know a lot of people feel that they need to be with others to exercise. And I totally, totally appreciate that and value that, because being in a community of like-minded people who are exercising, feeling good, if that's what you want to do and do it, I totally encourage that. The other thing you need to do is look at your diet. Our foods um, our food supply is very weakened. The soil that they're grown in is depleted. They pick things early. Things don't have the amount of vitamins and nutrients that they used to have. There's, how I look at these broccoli when I buy broccoli, even organic broccoli, and I'm like, I know when I grow broccoli in my garden, it's full of like these really creepy crawly worm things. I can tell you some funny stories. And I'm like, how do they keep these things off of here? And I know that there's sprays you can spray on to clean your vegetables and things like that. But anyways, our food supply is not what it used to be. It's a lot of processed food. If you go out to eat, it's mostly processed. That's how McDonald's can always have their burgers taste the same, because it's all processed. Even Panera has a process. Their foods are processed. I'm not against processed foods. We have to find a way to live in the world we live in, but still balance our guts. So diet's super important. One thing you can really do easily is cut out artificial sweeteners. Artificial sweeteners are detrimental to the gut health of your microbiome ecosystem. And what reason being is that it depletes it. So you want to look for natural sweeteners in your processed foods, like monk fruit, stevia. If you see aspartame, sucralose, even though the drink will say natural, great ingredients, if it has that in it, you want steer away from that, because that's not going to do you any favors. And there's other options out there that are easily available. So stay away from that. Sugar is better. Regular sugar is better than the artificial sweetener. So if you have to have some kind of sweetener, stevia, I'm not against sugar as long as it's low. And these Gatorades that they feed the kids, too much sugar for the kids. Look for even if you see a sugar-free Gatorade, that probably has the aspartame in it. So really watch there's a lot of products out there that offer better alternatives for family. The other thing that's super important, and is kind of goes hand in hand. If you have a dysbiosis in your gut, you're going through perimenopause, you're going to have sleep issues. Guaranteed. You're going to have hot flashes. You're going to be hot and cold. You can't get comfortable. You're not producing the right amount of melatonin, which helps you sleep. You can take melatonin to help you sleep. There are some other natural products out there that you can purchase to help you sleep. But my firm believer of sleeping is don't drink caffeine after a certain hour, because I do like my coffee. Have a really good sleep hygiene. So sleep hygiene is have your room dark, have a routine that leads you up to know that you are going to sleep. Another key thing is do not use your bed for anything else but sleeping. Do not lay in bed with your device, and I'm going to come back to the device, and scroll through social media or look at emails or whatever. Your device actually should be 10 feet away from your head when you're sleeping. You should not use it as an alarm clock, because you want to resist looking at your phone or a device or a tablet. That's why I'm not an advocate of Kindles, because the blue light will disrupt your sleep, your circadian rhythm of your body. It will also alert your body, your mind to stay awake. Plus it's giving off rays that age your skin. You don't want to do that, because your sleep time is supposed to be resting, and we want to age nice, less wrinkles. The device also has a neural loop built into it, and it's going to keep you engaged. And again, they did this by science. It releases dopamine when you're looking at your phone, and dopamine is released in your body when you smell chocolate chip cookies or if you have sex. So if you're looking at your phone and you're laying in bed, you're not going to be able to sleep. It's going to disrupt it for those reasons. So I highly recommend don't look at your phone for an hour before bed. I know that's hard, everybody. Try starting small, 15 minutes, and then increase to 30, then increase to, and then get up to an hour before bed. You'll find that if you're really having trouble sleeping, this will really help you. It's hard. And if you don't use it as an alarm clock, You don't want to look at your phone for the first 30 minutes when you first wake up. They say an hour, I say 30 minutes. I'm sorry, we're all busy. It's hard to resist for 30 minutes when you first get up, particularly if you've used it as your alarm clock, because you're automatically going to go, oh, and then next thing you know, the neural loop got you in there and you're releasing dopamine and you're going to keep looking at it. I'm still on sleep. So the other thing about sleep is I love eye shades. You wear those little eye shades on your eyes to help you sleep. It kind of makes it dark in your room. I'm a firm believer of essential oils. You can add that to a diffuser and have some nice relaxing scents out into your room. There was a couple other ones about sleep hygiene, reading before bed, people like taking a bath, no caffeine. There was one other one I forgot, but if I think of it, I'll remember.
How about not drinking anything after a certain hour so that you don't
Well,
wake up?
well, if your gut microbiome is balanced, you should be able to fall back to sleep right away if you do wake up and pee. And I know a lot of older people. I also work in a senior rehab center, an outpatient rehab center for seniors. And yes, a lot of them will not drink water close to bedtime because they don't want to have to wake up to go to the bathroom. You should be drinking half your body weight in ounces in water a day. And yes, if you want to have it earlier in the day, because that's part of your nutritional package, that your body's made up of mostly water. And if you do wake up and you go out to pee, don't look at your phone because a lot of people will look at the phone and it'll help keep them awake. But if you're having difficulty getting back to sleep, there's mindfulness techniques that I teach my clients to use, and I can share it real quick right now. I call it the 4-3-7 technique, and it's mindfully concentrating on your breathing. So you'll breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds, nice and slow. You'll hold your breath for 3, and then you exhale for 7. And if you just do that and do that count, it kind of combines your relaxation technique for your body, the whole old counting sheep, and it works every time. So if you're struggling, a lot of people say, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. It takes a little practice. It's not like something that just boom happens right away. But I've never had anybody tell me that that hasn't helped them. You just have to set your mind to doing it and stick with it till you get better at it. It does take a little bit of practice. And that's another key about balancing your body and what you can do naturally. And then finally, which is never talked about, and I love this subject, is you can stimulate your gut-brain axis, your second brain, every day. And if you stimulate it, it's healthier. And one of my favorites is humming. So if you hum, you are creating a vibration down the nerve, and that helps keep it healthy, helps the communication pathway. There's a whole bunch of things you can do, gargling, gagging. You can poke your toothbrush in the back of your throat. Those are daily things you can do. And then there's weekly and monthly things that you can do that'll help stimulate your vagus nerve and keep it healthy. And the reason you want to keep your vagus nerve stimulated is because that's the channel where all these passive method two-way communications are going back and forth. And finally, I want to say, you know how everybody says, oh, I just feel it in my gut, or like you're nervous, or, listen to your gut. You got that, maybe you're having a speaking engagement like we're having here, and you're nervous and you can feel the butterflies in your stomach. That shows you that that communication pathway is there. And the mindfulness piece is what you say to yourself. Okay? It's so, so important. So if you're laying in bed and you're laying there going, I can't fall asleep, I can't fall asleep, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to pee, I can't fall, the body's gonna believe you. But if you say, all is good, I'm relaxed, and just tell yourself and believe, and you just say the talk the talk, and your body will walk the walk.
I love that. Now, one of the things, since you're on that topic, one of the things that I tell my clients, and it's worked especially for younger people, teenagers and things, when they're just in this constant loop of, information overload and just quick to get decisions and quick to react and inappropriately in many cases. But being a mental health advocate is something that is important and we all need to do for ourselves. And so I often use the phrase, the grass is green, the sun is warm. So whenever I'm feeling anxious, or if I counsel others, I tell them, just remind yourself the sun is warm, the grass is green. And when you repeat that over 3 or 5 times, it actually makes a change within your body. And so I know, being a public speaker as well, when you have that nervousness before you get on stage, and then you go and you give your talk, you come off, your heart's pounding sometimes. Your body, you feel like an overload, which is normal. But at the same time, it is something that you can regulate. Humming, and even like when you're in the morning, when you gargle with your mouthwash, is that the type of gargling that you're referencing?
Yes, but it has to be kind of a deep-throated gargling to really help stimulate your vagus nerve. The other piece I wanted to tell you when you were talking about mindset, I have to just come back to that quickly, is
Yeah.
I firmly believe in the law of attraction. So if you're going to be thinking negative things, saying negative things to yourself within your head, that's going to create negative things coming your way. If you ever take two magnets, it's proven by science. And so you need to focus on like you said, yours was the grass is green, and there's so many affirmations, even though everybody laughs about affirmations, or not everybody, but if you find the right affirmation that works for you to help stop that negative talk, or just even putting post-it notes up on your mirror and then saying them to yourself, like saying good morning to yourself in the mirror, and I go into more detail and things like this in my book. And I do a whole thing on the vagus nerve in my book as well, on all the things that you can do to help that. It's
tell
there's
tell our listeners about your book a minute, because we haven't talked about that.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. My book happened because somebody reported my Facebook as I was under 13. So Facebook took me down, and I didn't have Facebook. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't communicate with my audience anymore. What am I going to do? And I didn't give up on it, but that's a whole nother story. And I said, well, I've always wanted to write a book. I'm going to write a book. And initially it started out a book about my life. But then I said, you know what? My life is more than I can give more than just my story. I need to give them the tools. And I took my skill set as an occupational therapist and I wrote 8 simple principles. And it's called Buzz Mama, because we're all busy as bees. I love bees and their everlasting energy to help the hive and help the community. And they're always go, 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 go. And that's kind of how people describe me, as the Energizer Bunny. And so my daughter said one day, I was showing her my book and she goes, oh, you're the Buzz Mama. I said, I am. And she said, yeah. And I said, great. So my book is called Buzz Mama, Invincible Energy, 8 simple principles for busy moms. And so I break down my principles. I apply my occupational therapy skills with my knowledge about gut health, my own personal experience, and intertwine through the whole thing. You kind of go down my little memory lane of stories of my life that amplify, I should say, the principle that I'm discussing. Yeah, so
And
that's
and
one thing.
when is that available? I know many people are going to be interested. When can
It's
we get that?
right now it looks like it's targeted for January 7th. I had some setbacks with it, technology wise, but we're working through those. I never knew writing a book was so demanding. So I have great admiration for authors now that I never had before. And I'm really excited to get it out. It'll feel so good because it was supposed to come out in August when I turned 65. That was going to be my celebration for that. But, there was different plans in my universe. So I figured I might as well target it for January, where everybody's ready. Didn't want to do it around the election and around Christmas, because we're all busy with things like that, with, our families and getting ready for the holidays and the election and all that. So I'm super excited about that. And in conjunction with that, I did reopen my Women Rocking Aging Facebook group. It's a private group. And a lot of the tips that I recommend to my clientele will be being dropped in there. And you can request to join that. It's called Women Rocking Aging. If you go to the Facebook, you'll see my smiling face. And I would love to have that community grow, just to support women and living long, healthy lives.
Wonderful. Well, Emily, I know we could talk for forever. I know you've given our listeners, our audience, a lot to think about, strategies to implement in their lives as they're preparing, as they're entering into perimenopause. And I want to share that all of these tips, when we give back to ourselves, we end up with a peace that we didn't know was possible. And I know myself from living a life taking a step into that right direction when I gave myself permission to give back. And it's saying no, it's setting boundaries to your family that you are taking the time to exercise or that routine before bed at night to read. Personally, I keep my phone in the kitchen, and I, even though I go out to get my morning beverage, I don't look at it until after, no matter I hear the buzzing or the flashes, whatever. It can wait because the schedule is so important to keep that peace. And if you're having the perimenopause symptoms, some are not traditional, right? So when I thought perimenopause, I thought, oh, I'll just be tired, or I'll have those hot flashes start slowly or something. But there's other things that can happen that are like the inflammation or the inability to sleep and the disruption. And you said something, Emily, I want to touch on. You can't eat enough yogurt. So what I'm hearing, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like there's a whole framework of things that we need to do in order to keep channel that communication that between our gut biome and our brain. And you said happiness is a choice. And so I want everybody to know that if you're interested in doing what you need to do to have a better life, a happier life with more energy, where you can be healthy, you can fall asleep at night with peace instead of all that anxiety. You can sleep through the night and make sure that you have the right things physically and mentally. Listen to Emily Cambria. Look for her book that's coming out in January. I know you want to say something.
I know you can feel me. There was
Yeah.
one key thing that I forgot to mention when we were talking about what women and men can do to help their gut microbiome. And when I was talking about our depleted food supply, I'm a firm believer and an advocate for high quality supplementation. Not all supplements are the same that are out there. I know a lot of medical doctors would rather prescribe chemicals and will poo-poo probiotics and multivitamins. However, I think that there's a way they need them in our society today to fill in the nutritional gaps that we've missed. And just like our bodies love going to bed at the same time every night and getting up at the same time every morning, that's very key to keep that rhythm. Just like we have our habits. Like I know there's some people who will never drink Starbucks. There's only Dunkin' people. They'll drink Dunkin', or they'll only, drink kombucha or whatever. We all have our little things that work with us and that help support our bodies. And I'm a firm believer of our supplementation isn't something that you take sporadically. It should be part of your nutritional program. So if you're eating 3 meals a day, if you have your protein shake in the morning, I'm a firm believer of starting your day out with high protein, not a bagel and cream cheese. You need either a protein shake. A boiled egg is like the most perfect food you can eat in the morning because if you break the yolk, it does something to the composition of the quality of nutrients you get. But I'm not an egg eater, but I know a lot of people love eggs. But you can boil eggs and keep them in the refrigerator and then grab and go, and you got your grab and go, and you're saving money and putting less of a footprint on the earth with this packaging stuff. And so again, your supplementation should be part of your nutritional routine. So yes, I'll have my protein shake. I'll take my multivitamin. I have an antioxidant I use. I have a probiotic I use for stress. I'll take that. And then I'll have my yummy shake. And then I have balance. We didn't even talk about balancing your blood sugars. There's things that you got to watch what sugars in your food. I have a drink I use that keeps my blood sugars balanced all day, reduces my inflammation, and fluctuations in your blood sugars can cause all kinds of health issues. In addition to our estrogen, when our estrogen's going up and down, if you can't keep your estrogen balanced, that increases your risk for breast cancer, hormonal imbalances. My point is that when you get into a rhythm to support your body, it's really important to keep that rhythm. And that's why if you take medications from your doctor, he's going to tell you when to take it. He'll specify when to take it because that'll help your body, whether if you're inconsistent with it or not. So your healthy habits need to be consistent in order to have the greatest benefit. And that goes for exercising, that goes for your sleeping, having a consistent routine. And kids particularly thrive with routine, and adults kind of lose that. And because of our schedules get all crazy, we'll lose that ability to do that. But it's super important to really be intentional to try to keep your routine together. It'll help with your menopause, your perimenopause. It'll help with your life overall. It's hard with today's world because it's so much has been put back on our plates. Technology has thrown a lot of people's jobs that were replaced onto us. Instead of calling your doctor to make an appointment, they now tell you go to your portal.
Mm.
Now you're doing
Yeah,
the job of the receptionist because you can go to your portal and make your appointment. So we have so much more on our plates. Technology is great, but it also has, there's trade-offs for everything.
yeah. Now, Emily, one of the things we've taught, so having a consistent routine involving things like nutritional supplements, vitamins, minerals, and probiotics and things like that will help. When I want to talk about something else, when we age, our kids, if we had them, may have gone away, our spouses may pass, and we might find ourselves in a place where we don't have support. And so that can be especially troubling if you're dealing with these physical symptoms you don't know how to handle, if you don't have support of people in your life that you once had or that you wish you had. Is That's one of the things I want to touch on. When you give back to yourself by exercising, by giving yourself the right nutrients, you can get better sleep, you can feel better, you can get that happiness flowing by stimulating the vagus nerve and being mindful with a routine. It kind of positions you for more time that you actually feel better, and then you can do things to give yourself support back. So if in here in the United States we have AARP, and when I was younger I thought, oh, AARP, that's for old people, right? And the age at which you're old is like 80. So, but in my mind, I thought, oh, that's for old people. But then when I saw there was like a discount on things, I said, oh, let me join it, right? I'm 50, I'm eligible, let me do it. So a couple of years ago, I joined it. And not that I wanted to tell anyone or advertise it, but there's a portal that they have online that has so much valuable information. So I want to just encourage you, if you're looking for support groups or you have free time, they have games, they have informational articles, they have community meetups in your area. I really recommend this. So if you're in perimenopause, instead of scrolling the internet, doom scrolling, looking for a group or joining something that you're not sure of, and maybe you don't want to step out to meet someone new, use that AARP portal and sign up. It's really interesting. Like I found it's really therapeutic. So not only am I getting information, sometimes that can lead to information overload, or you'll just, the technology is overwhelming to you as you age. But go to this portal. I just want to share this as a tool that you can use to kind of give back to yourself and help you feed that mental health component that you need to be mindful of. We don't want to age sitting in our living room watching television, falling asleep at 4 o'clock every day. So if that sounds, you want to set up a framework, a plan for yourself to avoid the nursing home. I want you to get, my mentor, Les Brown, has a plan, an anti-aging, anti-nursing home. He's going to care for himself. And it is just so amazing when you see people like Les Brown, like Emily Cambria, who not only came back from a physical situation that wasn't working for them, to come back. And Emily's book, Buzz Mamas, I can't wait for it. Buzz Mama, I can't wait for it. And I'm looking forward to, again, everyone, follow Emily Cambria She's on Instagram. She's on Facebook. Her group is called Women Rocking Aging. So definitely reach out. I think we've touched on a lot of things, Emily. I definitely want to have you back on the show when we talk about those other topics of trauma and uh, the book, of course. I think we have a few episodes we could do together.
I
Emily,
may
yeah,
I
is there,
may I add one more thing to your comment
yeah,
on not sitting on your sofa as you age watching TV?
definitely.
There's three things that add to people's longevity, three secrets to longevity, to aging well. And one is autophagy. That's your diet. That's when it helps remove, and you put yourself in autophagy if you do intermittent fasting, and that's in my book a little bit. But that helps get rid of the dead cells in your body, which if you research Alzheimer's, which is one of the top problems with people aging, you have to get rid of those extra dead cells in your body. And you do that through proper eating channels. Again, like I said, your consistency of what you do on a daily basis. The second one is gut health, which we've talked about extensively. And the third one is community. And centurions, that's the one thing that all centurions have in common. That's only the one thing, which I think is amazing, is that they have a strong community and a strong connection. May not be a huge community, but they have a strong connection with people. So I totally support your suggestion on joining AARP, looking into your community. There's a lot of senior centers out there. I know my sister-in-law works at an amazing senior center in Massachusetts that does all kinds of programming. We have Easton Area Aging here in Maine. They offer support systems and luncheons and talks and all kinds of things like that. And getting involved. I know one of the ones I always recommend if you're looking to get involved, the political politicians are always looking for volunteers, and that really helps affect our communities. And so there's always places to go. Schools are looking for volunteers. So staying involved and making sure that's something that you're passionate about, definitely, and AARP is a great resource for that.
Yeah, and also in terms of getting involved, I love that. I know people who are volunteering now down at the voting booths, but you can find a new passion. It's never too late. Okay, so you can overcome you. It's never too late, and you're made for something more. These are key messages in some of my keynotes, but it's true that you can find a new passion, something as simple as learning a new language. You can do that from the comfort of your home. You can do that while walking. There's a walking pads you can get for as little as I think $20 I've seen on Amazon or Temu. You can find things to do and you don't have to leave the home. If you imagine if you learn a language and then you impress someone with your language skills, right? So I just love that one. Someone told me that recently, so I want to share it.
Yep.
So again, you can find passion in your purpose. It's never too late to overcome. They used to say age is but a number, and you're only as old as you feel. I really love that. And Emily, I can't wait for all the things to come. We're going to feature you again when we get closer to the book launch. Emily, we were at our time limit. Is there any last words you'd like to share with our listeners on the topic of peace in perimenopause and mental health in menopause?
Yes, I think that menopause is challenging, and that there are simple things that you can do on a consistent basis that can offset the challenges. There's all kinds of things out there that you can utilize for hot flashes. There's some great supplements that actually work, not the chemical that says it causes hot flashes. I don't know if you've seen that ad. I laugh so hard when it goes side effect, it causes hot flashes. So there are things that you can do. There's a neck fan, how you dress can all affect your hot flashes, what you're wearing in bed, sleep. There's so many tools out there in your toolbox, as I like to say as an OT. We have the tools, the natural tools to battle this and to not go down a negative Nelly hole of having depression and poor mental health. Yes, mental health needs to be brought to the forefront of what we need to do. And I think women in particular are the best role models to set for our children and our community by handling our mental health properly.
Yes, thank you. So Emily, We'll look forward to connecting with you. You're available on Instagram. You have a great following online. If you haven't seen her, she is wonderful. She'll give you tips for exercises you can do each day. She'll give you she's just so inspirational. Emily, thank you so much for being on Resilient You with Alicia Pozsony. We'll look forward to everything you have to come. And thank you so much for blessing everyone with this wealth of knowledge.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be on your podcast. It's been an honor. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks to all the listeners. If you listen to this to the whole end, thank you so much. We really appreciate you too.
We do.